glad you could join us for CVM Live Rewind, CVM's weekly recap of the top stories from our newsroom. I'm Nika Lewis. It was a week when Brian Sykes was fully appointed as Chief Justice. Fitz-Jackson recommitted to retabling the banking bill, and there was more controversy in a beach ownership dispute. Special welcome also to our viewers in the New York tri-state area. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has expressed confidence that new Chief Justice Brian Sykes will bring transformation to Jamaica's justice system and build on the legacy of his predecessors. Chief Justice Sykes was confirmed in the post at King's House on Thursday. It's an atmosphere of jubilation at King's House, where the Chief Justice Brian Sykes has been confirmed in the position for which he was acting only a few weeks ago. And with the permanency in the office came a number of titles: the Order of Jamaica Commander Class and the Order of Distinction.
I, Brian Patrick St. George Sykes, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Jamaica, that I will uphold and defend the Constitution of Jamaica, and that I will administer justice to all persons alike in accordance with the laws and usages of Jamaica, without fear or favor, affection or ill will, so help me God.
But amidst the pleasantries, there remained some understanding that the judiciary would not rest until the temporary post was confirmed and a clear line be drawn between the judiciary and the executive arms of government.
Today we can take pride in our ability to accept responsibility, to reconcile differences, and take actions which clearly demonstrate that the well-being of the nation is paramount in our decisions.
The Prime Minister, who came under pressure for initially announcing an unprecedented temporary appointment in a clear vacant spot, sought to assure his confidence in Justice Sykes and his work.
The government is committed to the independence and effectiveness of the judiciary. In my previous statement, I emphasized that the independence of the judiciary is paramount. For us to transform the society for the benefit of all Jamaicans, there has to be the executive will and the judicial will. The government must exercise its desire for an evolved justice system within the framework of our long-held and proud tradition of judicial independence.
Chairman of the People's National Party, Fitz-Jackson, says the opposition will be retabling the Banking Services Amendment Bill when the House of Parliament reconvenes. CVM's Khadija Thomas has this report.
Jackson was speaking at a PNP press conference at the House of Parliament on Wednesday. He says the government's delay with the banking bill has led to haphazardness and dysfunction in Parliament.
Because you don't want the decision of Parliament to go out there in a divided way. It doesn't make good for effective governance, regardless of which party forms the government. And therefore we are appealing to the government that for Jamaica's sake, not for the JLP's sake or the PNP's sake, for Jamaica's sake, let us respect the conventions of our parliamentary system in government.
Jackson added that the government made a decision to defend the beneficiaries instead of the victims of banking fees.
It was very, very, very unfortunate that the government, whose members contributed greatly to the provisions of the bill by way of the recommendations coming out of the Economy and Production Committee, chaired by a senior member of the Jamaica Labour Party, Mr. Carl Samuda, and which Mr. Vaz participated in which Mr. Shaw participated in, and signed the report with the recommendations. And on the moment to act on the very things that they signed off on, they flipped 180 degrees.
He says the bill had been circulated to government officials with the expectation that they would make pertinent changes. However, only the Consumer Affairs Commission provided recommendations.
This is only when the action is to be taken that the government saw it convenient to block that bill and to block the very things that they said a lot about that was urgent. The bill will be tabled, and I'm appealing to good sense to prevail on the part of the government members.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
Orrit Fisher is to remain as the Director of Elections as the court has left in place the injunction which bars the Electoral Commission of Jamaica from removing Fisher from the post. The decision was made by Mr. Justice Kirk Anderson, who said he would make a ruling in that matter at a later date. This follows hours of arguments from Hugh Wildman and Solicitor General Nicole Foster Pusey in favor of their clients, Orrit Fisher and the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, respectively. Mr. Fisher is challenging the Electoral Commission of Jamaica as he says his one-year appointment as the election boss was illegal because the law clearly states that the appointment must be for 7 years. The next activity for the EOJ is the conducting of by-elections in Northwest St. Andrew and the Norman Gardens Division on Monday, March 5. The Falmouth Hospital was the scene of destruction following the death of a 34-year-old Dwayne Faulkner in a motor vehicle collision. CVM's Rohan Daly reports.
The incident was fueled by an accident which led to the death of a man, a tragedy friends of the deceased said could have been prevented were it not for the inefficiency of hospital officials. The angry mob hurled stones at the hospital, causing major damage and injury to a few of the hospital workers. The motor vehicle accident occurred in the vicinity of the overpass Martha Bray approximately 5 Sunday morning, where the occupants of this motor vehicle slammed into this palm tree after riding the embankment, leaving all 5 in the vehicle injured. It is alleged the occupants were under the influence of alcohol, evidence found at the scene. The driver came out the worst of the tragedy and succumbed to his injuries at hospital, at which point the angry mob started hurling stones at the hospital, blaming the officials for his demise based on what they say was the slow response.
This is not the first incident of this nature that has happened here. This is, from my recollection, the 4th incident that has happened here. And I think that even though we have had a good cooperation from the police, one of the things that we are asking is if there could be a little more vigilance in terms of policing the hospital.
The regional director says the police's presence has decreased despite the good relationship they previously enjoyed. He said much of the incident could have been prevented.
But in particular today, I am of the opinion that the response time was a little slow. It took about 40 minutes for them to respond to our call, and we had to call twice in order to get their full attention.
In the meantime, Corporal Kirkland Cross of the Falmouth Police Station had this to say to motorists.
Well, I'm appealing to the motoring public that whenever using this section of the road, approach with caution, obey the rules and regulations that govern the roadway. And remember, speed kills.
Rohan Daly, CVM Live.
The Police and Traffic Highway Division received commendations from members of the traveling public after a massive traffic operation was unveiled in the streets of the corporate area. CVM's Joel Crosskill tells us more.
On Monday morning, motorists in the corporate area were greeted by a heightened police presence at a number of major intersections. It comes as part of a deliberate drive from the traffic police to assist in the flow of traffic and dissuade any criminality which might take place on the roadways.
In support of our 90-day crime reduction strategy, what you saw last week was the use of trainees at an advanced stage of their training to sort of create for that high visibility presence, especially at our major intersections.
SSP Calvin Allen further explained the rationale behind the decision to flood certain intersections with police personnel.
What we are rolling out today is a further advanced program as we enhance our presence at major intersections, all geared towards greater traffic management and also treating with the issues of crime generally, as we seek to give support to a sort of a 90-day crime reduction plan.
The Traffic and Highway Division says that they have been monitoring the electronic media and noted the positive response motorists had to a similar program involving trainees that occurred last week.
It is going to be a continuous and ongoing effort, and we want for people to realize that we are about greater order and discipline on our roadways.
And most importantly, I have my ticket book and I'm ready.
There are close to 30 such posts that the police will be monitoring on an ongoing basis. Joel Crossgill, CVM Live.
Now, Opposition Senator Lambert Brown has mounted strong objection to aspects of the Trafficking in Persons Amendment Act of 2018, wherein it was suggested that the offence could go to trial without a jury. CVM's Joel Crossgill reports.
Opposition Senator Lambert Brown was staunch in his criticism of a proposed measure in the Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression and Punishment Amendment Act 2018 that would potentially see the trials of those accused of involvement in human trafficking facing the court without a jury.
The arguments being advanced here of complex and intimidation could apply to contract killing. It could apply to domestic murder. It could apply to gang-related murder. It is therefore not convincing unless it is to say one day, sooner rather than later, we may abolish trial by jurors.
He suggests that there is no guarantee that the conviction rate would be improved if the trials are conducted without a jury, while arguing that the potential intimidation the jurors may face would be no different to those involved in contract killings or other gang-related murders before the courts.
The notion that a judge-only trial gives us a conviction more often than not is not true. I've heard my friend Mark Golding say it over and over. But don't take Mark's word, don't take my word. Take the statistical report of the Supreme Court for the Hillary term 2017. Judge only in the gun court, conviction was 21%.
He offered to make an amendment to the bill that would see the use of a jury become optional.
I'm going to propose an amendment for fairness. If the DPP comes to the executive, or the office of the DPP comes to the executive and say, we, the prosecutors, want trial without jurors, shouldn't the accused be given the right to decide and to elect to have a trial with judge alone or judge and jurors?
Joel Crossgill, CVM Live.
With the enhanced security measures still in effect in St. James, students at the UTech Western Campus have become more fearful for their own safety and security. CVM's Khadija Thomas reports.
When gun violence had flared up in the parish last year, evening classes were suspended at the Western Campus as students were advised to take steps to ensure their personal safety. Fast forward to the present, the enhanced security measure is still affecting students whose movements have been hampered by the crime-fighting strategy.
The challenge really for them is getting taxis in the evening because we have evening classes, and evening classes start at 6 p.m. and they go up until 9 p.m. And the students have complained that when they leave classes at 9 p.m., even at 8 p.m., they're having a challenge getting taxis to go home.
The UTech Western Campus coordinator, Sophia McIntosh, says this has led to students being hesitant to attend classes, but the university has implemented a shuttle bus system for their safety.
We take the students to a central point, and that is downtown Montego Bay. That is in Stamshab Square. So, and we encourage the students and our lecturers also to be safe and to ask our lecturers to use their judgment.
McIntosh adds that most of these students are from inner city communities and have conveyed grave concerns about the violence within the parish. But she hopes this will not deter them from their classes.
Some have expressed that they probably would feel comfortable, going to Kingston instead of staying in Montego Bay or young people. And it's sad, and I'm hoping that it doesn't impact them.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
We are now up on another break on CVM Live Rewind. More when we return. Welcome back. It's our final segment of CVM Live Rewind. Finance Minister Audley Shaw has signed an agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, for the disbursement of $68 million. Here is CVM's Nicoy Wilson.
The loan is being provided to help Jamaica in their digitization efforts and will be used in part to facilitate the establishment of the controversial National Identification System, NIDS. According to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, the U.S. multi-million-dollar loan will cover all the processes leading up to the establishment of the National Identification System. He also made mention of ways the government will address concerns surrounding the protection of individuals' personal information. Prime Minister Holness also made mention of the possible benefits from the NIDS, referring to the positive effect digitization has had in Estonia.
Through your democratic process, you do that by the election of your government, by an active civil society, by the parliament passing legislation and having a justice system and a law enforcement system that will act when there are breaches.
Prime Minister Holness also made mention of the possible benefits from the NIDS, referring to the positive effect digitization has had in Estonia.
The introduction of technology creates the ecosystem for transparency. So the system of Jamaica is based on informality, being able to not be identified by the state. That creates a huge space in which all kinds of things can happen, which undermines the safety and security of the state, but actually prevents the state from growing.
He says a well-regulated digital system will bring about transparency, thereby significantly reducing corruption. Prime Minister Holness says a part of the solution to Jamaica's struggle is harnessing the benefits of technology as a catalyst in the transformation of our society and economy. He says what the government is doing in creating a digital ID, digital communication platform, and a single information portal is a part of the public sector transformation plan. The loan will be disbursed within 5 years, with the government having 24 years to repay. Nicoy Wilson, CVM Live.
More controversy has surfaced with fresh information on the ownership and occupancy of a beach allegedly owned by the Discovery Bay Beach Club Limited. We spoke to a member of the Discovery Bay Beach Club Limited who offered a new perspective. After weeks of follow-ups and investigations, the CVM Live in an interview with Mark McConnell, one of the 50 club members of the Discovery Bay Beach Club Limited, opted to shed light on the row between an alleged leasee with whom they were in court for over a year in relation to a beach in Discovery Bay, St. Anne. Speaking off camera, the St. Anne resident detailed the alleged chronology of events that led to a massive court dispute and a number of heated exchanges. McConnell, who grew up in Discovery Bay, presented a number of court documents concerning the beach where some seniors were reported lost as participating in aqua aerobic sessions under the woman McConnell said was only a leasee. In his version of the story, the Discovery Bay Beach Club Limited, which he says is the only such club limited registered and legally operating in the island, founded in the 1950s, are the owners of the property. He said the civilian leased the property for 2 years from April 1, 2014 to March 2016 from the Discovery Bay Beach Club Limited, to whom monthly rental was being paid. He said after a series of complaints concerning the leasee renting out to parties that constantly affected the neighborhood, a letter was sent to her advising on January 13, 2016 of an intention to not renew the lease. This letter, he advised, was sent from their lawyer. Upon receiving this, he said the leasee became abrasive and stopped paying rent, despite occupying the premises for months after that. That's when he said, upon the directives of the police and realizing that the alleged leasee was not willing to vacate the property, they decided to settle the matter in court. More documents in hand and refusing to be caught on camera, McConnell explained they spent just over 1.5 years before the courts in a bid to prove ownership, which had become a contention, and also seeking to evict the leasee. In the end, he said the court ruled in their favor and asked that the lessee vacate the property, which she allegedly failed to do. Hence, he said the court brought in a team to demolish the property. On the matter of the debris being left on the lessee's private property, he said the group had nothing to do with that, as everything was handled by the court after the court reportedly found the lessee in contempt of court orders. He said the property is being renovated to allow for greater access to the public without any lessee in the future. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding wants more attention to be paid to the aging population in light of the startling trends from 1996 to 2016. CVM Live's Nicoy Wilson has that update.
Citing population statistics, former Prime Minister Bruce Golding says there has been a noticeable decline in the birth rate for Jamaica.
In 1996, there were 57,400 live births in Jamaica. 57,400, a little over 20 years ago. In 2016, that figure had fallen to 36,000.
He says Jamaica now has an aging population, and so impact on society, economy and national policy should be examined. The life expectancy for Jamaicans is 74.1 years, which is above the world average of 71.4, which Mr. Golding credits to lifestyle changes.
They are living longer because medicines have improved. Jamaica has done fairly well in terms of combating major infectious diseases. People have become more health conscious. They're paying closer attention to their health and their lifestyles.
There has also been a sharp decline in the growth of the Jamaican population.
The rate of population increase has slowed to 1% annually. Fast forward some more to 2016. The rate of population growth has now slowed dramatically to 0.1% per annum.
Mr. Golding says this slowing population growth is as a direct result of the low birth rate. Nicoy Wilson, CVM Live.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson has shared some views on the role of media in the region. Mr. Patterson was the guest speaker at a seminar which examined 21st century legal challenges for advertising and marketing in the Caribbean. Here's Joel Crossgill.
Keynote speaker at the inaugural Caribbean Advertising and Marketing Law Seminar, former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson focused his address on the evolving role of media in the Caribbean.
We are witnessing the consolidation of media houses, which is juxtaposed with the ever-increasing variety of online sources of information. Can mergers and acquisitions in the area of the media be prevented? What is the role of the telecommunications company versus a traditional broadcaster? And of course, we have a new vocabulary. What is fake news?
Mr. Patterson spoke of the democratization of publishing as a result of the advent of ICT. He also spoke of the evolution of advertising on platforms that were traditionally viewed as exclusively for social media.
Social media is no longer the simple vehicle for people to stay in touch and connected with friends and family. It is now a transformational tool in the marketing and sale of goods and services at a fraction of traditional advertising costs.
Mr. Patterson also warned of the negative potential cyber attacks may have on our democracy.
We in the Caribbean are not immune to cybersecurity threats which are on the rise. All Caribbean countries need to guard against cyber attacks on our critical infrastructure, and we must be vigilant if we are to prevent the use of social media platforms to systematically shape public opinion and perception, which is wrong, and thereby shake the confidence in our democratic system.